Hello again, everybody. James Escarcega with the man who knows it all.
Wearing his Dodger shirt, loud and proud this morning.
Just don't show it to Tom Kiss. Tom Kiss doesn't like celebrations or things of that sort, but I think Clayton Kershaw...
They're becoming spoiled Dodger fans.
I think Clayton Kershaw said it the best, and he said, we have to have nights like this because they work too hard to win.
You got to celebrate these steps of the journey. This is a baseball tradition.
And then
this is our basketball. This is our tradition.
Yeah, that's right.
2-minute drills the week before the big games.
That's right.
I can't believe we're already in the 4th week of high school football.
For many teams, for many teams, for sure. And in about 2 months, you'll see a lot of high school football teams, hopefully in the area, doing that same celebration too, Freddie. That's the fun part about it. Let's review, shall we, quickly last week.
Okay.
Give me the big winner.
That's tough. I think Glendora. And Glendora went to the top spot in our poll this week. It was kind of a week that I think we knew these outcomes were probably going to happen.
Sure.
Bishop Amat losing their big game to Jay Serra. We kind of knew La Habra was up against it, going against Mission Viejo, and then there was St. Paul and Narbonne, and there was Muir and Grace Brethren. So you kind of saw it coming.
Right.
It was, how were they going to compete against them? I thought, La Habra handled the heavyweights the best. I think at this point in the season, I think Glendora be number 1 in Division 5 in the way they've handled their schedule and the way they've looked. I think right now, this point in time, they're deserving of that number 1 ranking, and that's where I put them earlier in the week.
I just think, Freddie, and you were at the game Friday night against Charter Oak, their offensive line just is so good. They just get a good push off of the ball, and they allow Xavier Ford to do his thing.
Yeah, and I think I really got the sense that Brandon Rohr, he was trying to be more balanced. They got stuck down in the red zone sometimes, trying to punch it in when they really could have just given the ball to Ford and let him score. But I think that's all part of Jimmy down the line figuring out how you have all of these weapons, because they can throw the ball and you have Ford. How are you going to use it best to your advantage? Because if they wanted to in that Charter Oak game, if they wanted to just be safe and be smart and give the ball to Ford 40 times a game, he could have ran for 350 yards. They weren't going to stop him that night. So I really like Glendora, and I think their defense continues to get better. And they've got another big one this week. It's going to be one of the games we talk about. I'll let you set that up.
Yeah, correct. We'll just talk about that in just a moment. One other narrative we mentioned in the Saturday morning quarterback this past weekend, Freddie, was we got Muir, who really I thought competed tough against Grace Brethren. They didn't get spanked, and then you got Pasadena, who's 3-0. Man, oh man, Freddie, can we get this?
that's really one of the early stories in Pasadena, and
it's great to see too, man.
And it's one of those things now where Pasadena and Muir are keeping a lot of their hometown kids. These kids have always been there, but they may have gone to Arcadia the past few years. Charter Oak before. They've gone to Monrovia.
Alamany.
Or they go to Alamany.
Or Crespi.
Crespi. There's this sense now that they're keeping a lot of their kids at home. Kids who had transferred out are transferring back in. You see that, over at Muir especially. And it's great to see. I mean, Pasadena, the way that they just beat Santa Fe. Was it Santa Fe?
Well, they beat Pioneer.
77-0. And that was a Pioneer team that was 2-0 going to that game.
You're right.
In fact, all 3 teams that Pasadena has beaten, that was their only loss. Their 3 opponents are combined 6-3.
Yeah.
So impressive. And like you said, with Muir playing Grace Brethren, wow. I thought only being down 2 touchdowns at halftime against a team like that really could compete in Division I this year.
Yeah, correct.
They're that good. For Muir, that was a game that earned some stripes for me. And when you think of these 2 teams in Division 11, just let's get them in the playoffs and let's see what happens, because we're going to see them in the final week in the Turkey Tussle
on a Thursday night.
Excited on Thursday night on Halloween.
Holy night.
They're going to play that game, and then the Division 11 playoffs are going to come out the following week. And let's just hope they're both in it, because I think the way they're trending right now, oh my goodness, it's never happened before in the history of Pasadena sports that they've met, in a championship game or late down the line. And I'll even have to look when they met in the playoffs.
This is Mr. Pasadena right here.
Tony Brooks told me the last time Pasadena started 9-0, they lost to Muir in the Turkey Tussle in the early 90s. So it doesn't happen very often. This could be a special year.
Was Jim Brownfield the coach then?
He probably was.
Okay.
Jim Brownfield was there from the late 80s, early 90s. He probably was.
And let's don't forget about La Mirada, too. They hung in pretty tough with St. Margaret's and narrowly lost. That's another team I thought, over the weekend. And just one other note, and it's these guys right here. St. Francis 2-0, Freddie.
Yeah. By the hair of their chinny chin chin.
You know what? And I could hear Jim Bonds. It doesn't matter if you win by 50 or you win by 2. You're still 2-0, so to speak. And they can't.
It matters. It matters.
Yeah.
It matters whether you win by 50 or 2. It just kind of, you get a better sense of where you are as a ball club. Now, they could very easily be 0-2, but they're 2-0. They got the wins. Give them credit.
Yep.
That Damien one, boy, that one in overtime. I hear that was something special down there.
Yeah, I had talked to a few people, and they told me the same thing. It was quite a game, and I think that's a game that needs to continue to be played. This was the back end of the home and home series, with the 2-year contract. That game needs to be played, so to speak. So a lot of stuff. If you missed it from last week, just go on the website and you can read all our game stories, the quarterback, and everything that's fallen off. By the way, 2 big comeback wins for El Rancho and LaSalle. And look at Ben Bice.
Ben Bice, 2-0.
2-0, making an early pitch for Coach of the Year.
Their opponents are, whatever suspect, but
Santa Paul's on a bad team.
When you look at what they had done prior to Ben getting there, I mean, great for them. I mean, this is what coaches can do when they come in there and kids buy in. It's not, they didn't get a lot of transfers in there.
No, they didn't.
This is Ben Bice getting guys to buy in, for lack of a better pun.
No question, and he's done a great job as well. So that's from last week. We now have to refocus ourselves on this week.
Okay, I got to get my glasses off.
This
is
exactly.
A big week coming up. Let's go.
It is a big week. We have 3 days of big action here. So we'll start on Thursday night over at District Field. You're going to be at this game, Freddie. It's going to be Don Lugo versus Northview, and we've seen this story before, haven't we?
I talked to Coach Greg Gano, who coaches Don Lugo.
He always accepts your
reminded him of the game last year when they lost 35-0.
What was his explanation?
It was 35-0 at halftime. He goes, Freddie, that was one of the worst games I've ever been a part of. And he's been through a lot of games. So, and Don Lugo's 0-3, but look, they're 0-3, and they've been competitive really in all 3 games. One of those was a 35-34 loss to South Hills because they missed an extra point.
Yep.
But I still think, Northview, they struggled in that early season win against El Rancho.
Yeah.
El Rancho's proving to be a pretty decent team, and then they've blown out their last 2 opponents. I like Northview to win this game and win big again. I think James Jimenez is leading the area in passing right now. He's averaging almost 300 yards a game, and the Thompson brothers are just something special. I mean, he's got those targets. And Jimenez as a quarterback, James, can really run the ball. He has almost 300 yards running the ball as well. So they're starting to hit on all cylinders on offense, and it's nice to see their defense in the last 2 weeks kind of resemble the defense they had last year. They've held their last 2 opponents to 7 points in each game.
Yeah.
So
they've outscored their opponents 91-14 in the last 2 games, which is really impressive. Next week's game's really going to tell us where they're going to be at. They're going to play at Los Altos. And we'll talk about the Conquerors.
That could be the game of the week next week.
I could. You are the man, so you get to call whatever games there are for next week. But that'll be a key game next week. So that's the big Thursday night game. I'm going to take Northview as well. That's going to be.
Yeah, no, I got. Yeah,
that's going to be a big game. There's a couple other games we'll mention on the previews. Freddie will mention on the previews. So let's just jump right to the Friday action, Freddie, and we're going to first make our way from the Whittier area up north. And the first one. Big game for Lucerna here. They play Colony at Whittier College. We're going to find out a lot about the Lancers by the end of the night.
Yeah, well, Lucerna's first 2 games, the opponents, one of those was Arcadia that they kind of ran through. This is their first real big test. Now, Colony's 0-3, but they've played a pretty good schedule. I know on paper it looks like 3-0 against 0-3.
Yep.
But you got to know who Colony is and the kind of competition they face. And this is going to be a good game. On Friday night. I still think Lucerna is going to have enough to win that game. We've said from the beginning of the year that we think they're one of the best teams in our coverage area. They haven't done anything to show that they're not. Enrique Hernandez, their quarterback.
He looks great, doesn't he?
Looked like the real deal. There's a reason that we had him on the magazine cover to start the season. I didn't have that one here to show it. But, yeah, I like Lucerna, James.
Okay, so do I. Going to be a good game, though, on Friday night. We're going to have John Sherrard,
Sherrard,
the venerable veteran at the game.
Whittier, yes.
Mr. Whittier. He'll be at the game on Friday night. Then we're going to work our way up north here. We'll work our way over to St. Francis. Freddie, they play Westlake. Westlake was 0-3, but the teams that Westlake has played are pretty darn good football teams. again, we're going to find out, I think, a little bit more about the Golden Knights this week.
Yeah, well, the Golden Knight, St. Francis always plays a pretty reasonable non-league schedule. Now,
They do.
they're not playing,
Super
the
tough.
Mission Viejos and the J. Sarahs, but when you play, the teams like Damien and Miracosta, now this game this week, these are good, solid games. It prepares them for the league that they're about to go in.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think at home, I think they're ready, James, to kind of bust loose. I do have that feeling.
Yeah.
Coach Jimmy Bonds was working with a new quarterback. He knows what he has in the backfield. The defense is starting to show some things. I think this is a game they bust out and win pretty handily.
I think so, too. Jack Flaherty's done a really good job at quarterback. And, of course, Bryson Reeves has really emerged as one of the top wide receivers in the area for them, along with, obviously, Max Garrison and Kevin Armstead. Too much Golden Knights for me, I think, on Friday.
Yeah.
Then there's the big one, which I'm going to be at on Friday, Freddie. Los Altos and Glendora.
3-0 against 3-0. Someone's O must go.
Go, please.
So look, Los Altos. Last week, Los Altos and Monrovia were both 2-0 when we kind of called this kind of the truth game between these two teams.
Yep.
Los Altos won that game going away, and this is really Los Altos.
Actually, Glendora won last year.
No. Los Altos won last week. They beat
Oh, last week. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go right
So
ahead.
Los Altos being the, what I think now is maybe the Co-Hacienda League favorite with Diamond Ranch against Glendora, which is the Co-Palomares League favorite with Ayala. I think those are the four teams, and those two leagues you're going to look
I
at.
think we might be missing a team here. We'll talk about that.
We can talk about that, but here's the deal. Los Altos has come a long way. Last year they lost a lot of these close games in non-league.
I agree.
Remember?
I do.
They lost that close game to St. Paul. They had lost to Glendora.
Yep.
They had really been kind of unfortunate. This year they've kind of turned that tide. Now look, we talked about Glendora at the top of the show. I realize how much Los Altos has improved. Is it Rene Zaldivar? Is that the guy that they have in their
Yes.
backfield?
Yep.
Really good player. I think, you're going to see Glendora really put the clamps down and show you again what they're all about. I like Glendora, and I don't think it's... I don't want to say it's going to be a rout, but I think it's a 2-touchdown game.
Couldn't agree with you more. I think it's going to be close in the first half. Just too many horses for Glendora. They,
Yeah.
Every week, and this will be the second time I'm going to see them, but the win against Damien, for me, what I took away from was the offensive line, Freddie. They just get a push up front, and they allow Xavier Ford to do his thing. They give Jacob Gonzalez the protection to use the guys like Caden Marshman. I don't think they get the credit they deserve. They do a great job.
Yeah.
And Justin Perry on defensive coordinator. Awesome job as well. So those are the three games you're going to see on print. The other games we're going to mention here, you're going to see online only. We'll start.
How about the game I'm going to be at?
Well, let's first. We got to talk about these guys first. Bishop Amat.
Oh, Bishop Amat.
The Bishop Amat's got
they are part of our coverage area.
They are part of our coverage area. They play Chino Hills on Friday, Fred. And,
Yes.
have you gotten any word what's going on with the running back situation over there?
Well, I actually did have a conversation with Coach Haggerty earlier this week in regards to the running back situation. Both of them, we're talking about Damian Moore and Dyson McCutcheon.
Yep.
Both of them were held out with hamstring injuries. I wouldn't really call them injuries, more strains. And I think it was a situation where they're just being cautious. There's going to be bigger games down the line. Although Coach Haggerty did tell me, if he thought they could play, they would have played. He doesn't want to cheat guys out of high school football games because these are so precious.
Right.
But, like he pointed out, hamstring injuries, if you don't watch those or nip them in the bud, they can linger. And I think he wanted to be careful that they don't linger. I don't know if they're going to play this week.
Okay.
I don't know if there's an urgency for them to play. I don't think they'll need them to beat a team like Diamond Ranch.
Right.
They would hate that I say that, but I think...
Or Chino Hills, you mean?
Chino Hills, I'm sorry. Yeah, Chino Hills. I think they're going to be able to handle that.
Okay.
So I'm not going to be surprised if they're held out one more week going into... I think they plays at Cathedral the
They're
following
at
week.
Cathedral next
before
week?
they get in the league. So there's some time still to heal before they get in the league. They're set on league and trying to win the Mission League this year.
How can you not?
So I don't blame them for holding them out last week. I won't blame them if they keep them out this week. Again, I think it's going to be a week-to-week thing, and Steve's a pretty good judge of when he needs to play them.
And they don't have to worry about the playoffs because they're in the playoffs.
They're in the playoffs.
So it's not like, okay, if we don't win these games, we're not going to be in the playoffs. At this point now, we're just talking about seeding, and that's
No, we're talking about division. Is it going to be Division 1 or 2? And
well, it'll be Division 2, and at this point, then
are you getting the sense it's going to be division? Is that something that we can almost probably say with some
I would
certainty?
say so.
Unless they run the table. They run the table and win the Mission League and go 9-1, and their only loss is J. Sarah. That gets you in the top 8. So to me, they can't afford another loss if that's something they're aspiring to be in.
I guess so. I guess you're probably right, but I really think if they're in Division 2, they're pretty salty.
Yeah, I just think that defensively, James, they're giving up too many points.
They're very young.
This goes beyond,
I get you.
Moore and everybody else. So.
I get you. Let's talk about your game. Go ahead and go. Sierra Vista, Baldwin Park.
I thought you wanted to set it up. This is your favorite team.
Yeah, whatever.
Sierra Vista High School.
Great, whatever.
2-0.
Both teams are 2-0. They play at Baldwin Park on Friday.
Yeah.
He's going to the game. Run with it.
I've never been to the Baldwin Park Sierra Vista rivalry game. Someone described it as it's 10 times more people than what you saw at the Sierra Vista playoff games, which I find hard to imagine in soccer.
Okay.
Because those were pretty big.
Okay.
I hear that it becomes standing room only. I'm kind of excited. When I went to Sierra Vista to watch them 2 weeks ago, James, I've been covering high school football for 20 years. As the first time I went there to cover a high school football game at Sierra Vista.
What'd you think?
It was a pretty good atmosphere.
Great.
Now, Baldwin Park, I was going through it in my head. I've been there. This will be my third time covering a high school football game. You know what my first game was? My first game I ever covered
was with
in
Lawrence
1992-93 was Lawrence Phillips,
Yeah.
Steve Hunt, the late Steve Hunt.
Yeah,
Sent
our
me to
hero.
that game, and that was the first game I ever covered. I also covered one, I want to say mid-2000s, when Baldwin Park was pretty good under who was their coach at the
Was
time?
it Higgins? Jimmy Higgins?
James Higgins, and they
Yeah.
played San Dimas, and that was a big game. So this will be my third trip
Okay.
to Baldwin Park. And hey, look, there's obvious reasons they're there. Sierra Vista's kind of got that resurgence. They're a team that when we write about them, there's a lot of teams, a lot of reader interest in them. I put up a poll last week, just having a fun time. Are more people interested in the results of their freshman game against Mater Dei or the varsity games that night? And there were more people that clicked on that freshman game. They just created a buzz. And now this week, Nick Demetrius, the guy who started all this buzz, the junior transfer as the SEC offers, he's making his debut in a rivalry game, which for me, if Sierra Vista can win this game, and they haven't beaten Baldwin Park in a while,
Yeah.
and Baldwin Park's coming off a pretty good beating last week
Yeah.
against a team that I think a lot of us thought they might lose to.
Yeah.
But if Sierra Vista wins this game, Jimmy, and you look at the rest of their schedule,
Can't see why
there's
they
a
can-
chance they go from 0-10 to 10-0.
Be great.
So it's a big game to cover.
Yeah, sure is.
I'm taking Sierra Vista to beat Baldwin Park on Friday. So there it is. Who do you got?
I'm taking Baldwin Park.
Okay.
Just leave it alone.
The Braves.
Yeah, but it's fun. Montebello sure is probably the same type of rivalry. Two inner city teams are short distance from each other. You'll enjoy it.
But if those games are big and they create a lot of fan interest when they're not doing well, imagine what it's going to be like on Friday.
Dude, it's just going to be. This is big for the school, ASB for money. There's a lot of pluses that go into it. So good for them. You'll be there. We'll have a photographer at the game. I found this game real interesting, Freddie. So Damien's at Charter Oak. You were at the game Friday night with Charter Oak Glendora, and I understand the Chargers got beat up a little bit.
Yeah, so, their quarterback, Joey Bustillos,
Yeah.
and their all-purpose threat,
Brandon Guzman.
both injured their ankles pretty bad, and I heard the Bustillos' ankle injury is a little more severe than his. I wouldn't expect him back this week, and you take away those two guys.
Oof.
They were already up against some of these better teams.
Yeah.
You take away those two guys, I don't know how they have much of a chance against Damien,
Who's improving?
who has Coach Mac Bechtel, and those coaching staffs have some history by itself. Damien, after losing the way they did last week, is going to come in here and want to really get after it. I feel like there's a blowout about to happen on Friday night with Damien just
Putting the crush
and
in.
it's just you got to have the horses, and right now Charter Oak is without two of their biggest impact players
Correct.
in a game. You can't afford to not have those guys.
Whew, that's a tough battle, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And I think this is the last game before, or maybe their second to last game before they get that bye before league starts. So it's going to be so having that bye couldn't have come at a better time. I got like the Spartans here as well. It just seems like last week just took a lot out of the Chargers, so to speak. So we'll take that. One other game of note: LaSalle is playing at Canwell. We're going to send Isaac Coladeras over there. Again, we mentioned about
I think
LaSalle.
that's a pretty good game.
I think it's going to be a really. I mean, Canwell is turning things around over there. They only had 21 kids on their roster last year. Freddie, they're up to 45.
Yeah, nice.
So they're starting to change
I'm
things
buying
over
on
there.
LaSalle. I'm buying LaSalle to go 3-0. I'm buying Ben. That's the way it is. I'm buying Ben.
They got Village Christian, Canwell, and I forget somebody else. I can see them going easily 5-0 going into the.
And Pasadena has a bye week, so I'm taking Pasadena in the bye week.
You should.
Yeah, I'm taking Pasadena.
Saturday night, District Field is. We got two biggies.
There's another game going on.
There's two of them. So let's quickly talk about South Hills and Monrovia. Go.
Yeah, well, so South Hills, they lost their running back.
Joaquin
Elliott for what looks like most of the season. I'm here reportedly he broke his foot. I don't know for sure if it was a break, but it's a multiple week situation. I've heard 6 weeks. I've heard possibly 8 weeks. He's hoping to get back, but that's a big blow to South Hills, who is giving up a lot of points, and they need that offense that Elliott provides. Still, in this game on Saturday, James, I think they have enough to get by. I really do.
Monrovia is pretty good now. They really pushed Los Altos last week, and I think Chris Williams has got things moving in the right direction.
Yeah, this is an opportunity for Monrovia.
Huge opportunity.
There's no doubt to beat a team that won a championship last year. They tried it on the road against Los Altos and came up short. And you're right. I think Los Altos probably at this point is better than South Hills, but I like South Hills to kind of bounce back. They still have a pretty good quarterback. They've got their receivers. I think they're going to do enough to get through this game and get to 3-1.
I'm going to take Monrovia. It's kind of going both ways on this.
I got the Huskies.
Let's go to the last game we're going to talk about is probably the big one of the year, Freddie. We got Bonita. We've got San Dimas in the Smudge Pot game.
It was an absolute blowout last year, wasn't it?
It was, and that was with J.P. Andrade at quarterback. Just the second half just got away from San Dimas.
Yeah, that was San Dimas' first go-around taking on Steve Bogan in a Smudge Pot game. But we're seeing, I've been talking to a lot of people about this Bonita start being 3-0. And the way that they're winning with Sean Jastrab, a junior quarterback who's the son of Bob Jastrab at Mount Sac. So obviously the bloodlines are there.
Absolutely.
But everything I hear is that, you've got a quarterback that gets it, that's growing, that's learning, who has the tools, and you've got one of the best offensive minds to ever do it in the San Gabriel Valley, and you're putting that together, and you're watching the results. And I think San Dimas had problems with that last year, and I think they're going to have problems with that again on Saturday, because the one advantage that Bonita's always had over San Dimas in all of these games, Jimmy, is they've had that size up front. They've been able to lean on San Dimas a lot. But San Dimas, they've always been well coached, whether it's Holman now or Zernico before him.
Correct.
The way that they run, they ran that wing tee. They've been able to steal a few games and win a few games in this series. And then you add the rivalry part where these teams go at it so hard. But, gosh, San Dimas' loss to Whittier
was very alarming. You
last week. I mean, that's a team. If you're thinking San Dimas has a chance to win the Valley Vista League and beat Northview, if you think San Dimas has a chance to do damage in the playoffs down the line, these are games that you expect them to win, games they would have won in the past that they would have ran up the score on, and it looked like they were going to do it early, but they just didn't have the juice.
No.
They didn't have the juice to finish that game out, and if you can't do that against Whittier, I don't know how you have a chance to beat a team like Bonita that has absolutely been rolling in 3 weeks, regardless of this is for the Smudge Pat, regardless of whether you want to call it the rivalry game.
I agree.
Bonita's going to be too much.
Here's the thing that I take away from the game. I was at the game last week against Whittier. Here's the thing that really, if you're a San Dimas fan, is really troubling. Whittier touched up for about 390 passing yards Friday night.
Boy, and if Whittier's throwing like that, imagine what Bonita's going to do. How'd you like to be watching the video of Bonita's first 3 games? You're the defensive coordinator at San Dimas this week.
And
good luck with that.
And San Dimas had a couple of players starting that were hurt. The key running back was I saw on the trainer's table with an ice pack on his ankle left late in the game. And I just don't see it, Freddie.
And the problem for San Dimas is if you get down quick, you take a couple of big passes and you go down 14-0 or 21-0 quick, they're not the kind of team built to get back in a game.
Not with that
like
offense they run.
No, I mean, they're 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Although some years it's 20 years in a cloud of dust. I just, I've always liked San Dimas. We've said in the previous weeks they're one of the winningest schools in the San Gabriel Valley over the last 20 years. It seems like every year they have a quality team. And to not say this year's team isn't going to be quality, they'll still win 7-8 games, I bet, at the end of the day. But they're not beating Bonita on Saturday.
Jacob Pacula is the running back I'm thinking about, who I saw late in the game. He was on that trainer's table, and he's such a warrior.
Yeah.
Plays with a warrior's mentality, and I just don't know. I mean, I'm sure he's going to play Saturday night, Freddie. I just don't know how 100% he will be, what his health is going to be for the game. I think Bonita crushes them by 3 to 4 touchdowns,
Yeah,
Freddie. I just don't see it happening. And if Mark Holman wants to send me a text message saying I'm crazy or whatever, so be it. But I just
these are predictions. These are all they are. We're not picking favorites. It's not about picking our favorite teams. It's about being honest and telling you who we think's gonna win and how they're gonna do it. That's all these takes are.
Friday night, Freddie. We're back at it again, huh?
Friday night.
What are we doing? What do we got going?
Well, I told you I'm going to be at the Sierra Vista game, which where I'm at right now.
And it's an online only game, Freddie.
Yeah,
so
it looks like a King Taco before the game,
Attaboy.
and then head on over to Baldwin Park.
I'm just trying to figure out if I should go to Petrillo's before going to the.
Ooh, that's always a great stop.
Cannot miss there.
Yeah.
Freddie will have the one-stop shop with the with all the games from Friday night, and then as he's putting together, I'll put together the Saturday morning quarterback for Saturday, and then
Saturday night. Keep following James.
I'll be in a great mood because by 7:00, Freddie, USC will be 3-0. And
UCLA will be 2-1 after the big upset win over Oklahoma. That's right, 2-1.
Okay, on that rousing note, we're going to call it a day, so to speak. If you got 3 friends, by the way, Freddie, UCLA can get you free tickets for the game. Have a great week, everybody. Freddie will be in action on Thursday over at District Field. I'll be at Citrus College on Friday and Saturday. Have a great week, everybody. Thank you all very much.